Hello there. Welcome to the Future Founders Fireside Chat podcast series, The Journey. This series features weekly discussions about virtual reality, emerging immersive technologies, and entrepreneurship from the 2018 Future Founders VR Fellowship, sponsored by the City of Seattle Office of Economic Development and produced by SIXR. The purpose of this podcast is to learn about the journey that it takes folks to enter the world of VR technologies and entrepreneurship. We hope to create an engaging conversation around emerging technologies in Seattle. This is episode 4, featuring Paolo Tosolini, founder and CEO of Tosolini Productions, a mixed reality content creation company based in Seattle. Paolo is interviewed by future founder VR fellow Eduardo Rojas via Skype. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you very much, Paolo, again for joining our podcast today. The theme of our podcast is The Journey. Many of us in the fellowship are starting out in virtual reality, so we want to learn about the movers and shakers in virtual reality and augmented reality like yourself and how they got started. So to start it off, could you please tell me about yourself, introduce yourself by name, your organization, and a little bit of history and fashion?
Sure. My name is Paolo Tosolini. I'm the founder of Tosolini Productions, which is a digital agency based in Bellevue, Washington here. And we focus on business storytelling using emerging technologies, such as touchscreen solutions for events, 3D virtual tours, and VR and AR. So we started 4 years ago. I passed with Microsoft. I've been Microsoft employee twice and then left and then came back, left, worked for a video production company, and then I decided to start my own agency. And then we started first with the plain, simple 2D design of touchscreens kiosks, because that was my passion, like a UX. I'm not necessarily a deep coder, but identified tools that would let my creativity to be expressed through drag and drop tools. And then I work with accounts, corporate accounts, especially, such as Microsoft is a client, Accenture, Deloitte, and some museums, Compass Group, and so on. So I started small, humble, and just with the idea that I wanted to follow my passion, which was creating content that would make me happy and would make the customer happy, and trying to be always on the cutting edge with technology. And as the business progressed with the 2D touchscreens, at one point I decided, I think my wife actually forwarded me a link to a device called Matterport, which is a 3D scanner. And she said, Paolo, I think this would be a cool thing that we offer, like 3D virtual tours of homes. So she's in real estate. And I said, okay, sounds cool. Let's invest. Then we bought the device. We spent the money. We just took a leap of faith with all the investment because just thought there was something there. And after many attempts, many demos, many free projects, I started landing real projects that allowed me to take this business and make it profitable as well. Now we have two lines of businesses that are profitable, they are sustainable. And then after that, there was a natural progression into VR because the scanner produced virtual tours, and then the 360 started coming into play. We started looking at cameras. Again, it's all organic growth without third-party investors because we are a services company. We are not a product company, so we work on projects. But the underlying theme here is I want to do things that I love. And let's make sure that what I do that I love also has applicability in the real business where there is some money, so we can continue doing what we love. And so I started doing the early VR projects with 360 explorations. I quickly found out that I have limits in what I can do. So I started partnering with people who knew 3D much better than me. So I could purchase equipment, I could sponsor time, research, materials, but I needed people with experience to code. And that's where I decided to expand and hire people, get interns at the beginning, and then suddenly I can sell and I can promote things. I could close projects that could pay for all our research and all our time and our people. So essentially, if I have to summarize my journey is, first, I want to craft my job around things that I'm passionate about, things that I like. Because only when I fall in love for certain ideas, certain dreams, I can actually give 100% of myself. And then when I believe in something, then people around me sees that they want to join me because they see that the dream brings also not only, nice ideas, but also projects, real projects that can make the whole ecosystem sustainable. So most recently, we've been doing more VR projects. Now we have Unity capability in-house. We have design, 3D, 360. And then our marketing method is essentially creating a lot of prototypes. So I sponsor prototypes that cost real money because it takes time, it takes material, it takes equipment. But once we create a prototype, it becomes a sales tool. With that sales tool, I can walk into a customer site and they may be asking, "Oh, have you done anything 360?" And suddenly I have a prototype, either paid or not paid by a customer, but it's still real work that we have done. So a prototype is not only a sales tool, but is a proof that we have learned the workflow to do a certain project. It's not that I'm going to a customer not knowing what I'm doing. It's because I can only promise to do things I can do, right? And but all these prototypes are actually a testament that we can do certain jobs.
Oh, thank you very much for summarizing that. One question I had is, how did you come to know what your passion was and how to apply it in your job? And does that direction and passion that you have affect what projects you decide to take on?
Very good question. So I always have been a multimedia passion person. Since multimedia is what brought me to the US in 96. So because just to give you a little bit of a history, in 94, I kind of invented a system that connected the first browser called Mosaic to a authoring tool, a multimedia authoring tool for Windows. That was kind of a HyperCard, a similar HyperCard for Mac. These guys have done for Windows. And this company in Seattle saw this work that I put for free on the internet. It was very, very early days of the web. And they invited me to a conference in 96. And I presented, and there was a room full of people, and suddenly they made me a job offer on the spot. So this is the history of me coming to the U.S. and which has the fundamentals is if you share with others what you find without being too scary that they may copy you, what comes back is greater sometimes and often actually than the value of what you share. So the fact that I shared everything that I knew at the time brought me to the US, to this country. Once I landed to this country, I continued working on multimedia for this company that doesn't exist now anymore. It is to be called Asymmetrics. But I always tried to align my passion of technology with what I was doing. By the way, I have if I want to do a macro analysis about what drives me, what makes me in the flow, there are three things. One is technology, one is people, and one is travel. So at the intersection of the three areas, it's me in my best flow. So if I find a role where I can travel and I learn something new with technology and I deal with people, this is the best spot for me. So with that blueprint in mind, I always try to look for jobs or create those opportunities that would align with my interests. So, of course, careers and journeys are not always a straight line. So there have been times when I took jobs that I didn't particularly like, and I didn't succeed necessarily. So, but I never gave up on the idea that I wanted to do something better than just a 9 to 5 job. So I moved laterally, and I'm talking about jobs at Microsoft that may have been nice jobs on paper, but once you do them, you might feel, oh, this might be boring in a sense, or it doesn't advance me enough in the direction that I want, to a point that I quit. I quit twice some full-time jobs just to pursue what I felt it was best for me. And again, this is not a straight line, but the more that I grow, the more that I age, if you want, the more I understand how important it is to do things that you like, and with the understanding that sometimes the things that you don't like help you to learn a lot about a particular discipline. For example, I may not like doing accounting or operations, but unless I know that component, I know what that is about, it's hard for me to run my business. I may decide to outsource that part eventually, but I need to get my hands dirty first. I need to understand what this is about to make a call about outsourcing or me taking on. So I decided, for example, that I can do sales and I can do marketing, I can do part of the design process, but to my, knowing also some of my limits, I decided that for VR, for example, I'm better off hiring somebody. I understand enough about VR, but I cannot do the work that my VR designers are doing because they spend thousands of hours and they're good at what they're doing. So this is where teamwork, working together with other people, takes you to the next level. Thinking that somebody can do everything on their own, and succeeding is hard these days. There is too much competition. The bar is raising every day, and I think it's important to partner with people who are much better than you on certain aspects of the business. And I'm still learning, by the way. It's not that running your own business, it's a continuous learning process. It's at times is stressful, at times is very satisfactory. I have sometimes doubts about should I continue because it's too hard. But then when we close some cool projects, then I say, oh my gosh, this is how many times I have an opportunity to do this, and without all the constraints of working on as a full time. So it's not a straight line, but it's something that I would recommend at one point for everybody to try. And again, it may not be for everybody.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That I could very much tell that you have a lot of self-awareness, and you can almost see yourself from a very clear third-person perspective, which is I find very impressive. And you also mentioned something that got me thinking. You mentioned that being very open and sharing your ideas can lead you to a lot of opportunities. And I've heard that here, especially in Seattle, that's even more true. I've heard that it's a much more sharing an open community compared to for example, San Francisco. So I wanted to ask, how would you describe the the Seattle and Bellevue community in terms of the VR and AR scene?
I think the Seattle community about VR AR is is very open, is very generous in a sense. It's almost like there is no. But look at the hackathons. Look at all these meetups. There is a very good sense of community. People are passionate about the topic, and they don't hold on sharing what they're doing. If they're invited to an event, they spend the time to bring their equipment. So we have very good examples of very generous people in terms of time and to share what they know and what they do. Something I noticed in the past, there was another wave that I can compare the VR wave now, all this excitement. It was the social media wave that happened in the late 2000s, right? 2007, 8, that there was all these Facebook, Instagrams, and so on popping up. And there was all these meetups about the social media breakfast, the social media dinners and after hours. And then there was a lot of sharing. And at one point, all these people really were actually people who were working on different jobs. They just really wanted to be in social media. At one point, when social media matured, something happened. There was money offered through different jobs for those positions, and then once people started getting social media jobs, all this kind of excitement and sharing, it started decreasing a little bit, and this is I think is a normal curve on every wave, and I think with VR, in my opinion, we haven't hit that point where sharing means I share my secret to you. You benefit from my knowledge, and then I'm left in the dark, and then you monetize. So we haven't reached that point, but I expect that at one point this might happen also to the VR wave, and I hope that it at one point it has to happen. Otherwise, the whole VR movement is unable to sustain themselves. But we should kind of expect a little bit of a change in the future when money comes into place, that people will start becoming a little bit more jealous about what they know, because they're saying, okay, I'm making a living now out of this. But it hasn't happened yet. And I'm grateful that in Seattle there is not yet this, there is still this open mentality to share and to progress together.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. And that's great that you use an analogy of how, there's waves of technology. I've definitely seen that. And I think you put it very, very well. One question that I had that kind of relates to user experience. So right now I feel like UX has grown a lot, and there's a big demand for, making mobile, web, and even more service design right now. But I feel like the UX hasn't, at least in mainstream hasn't reached, VR and UX haven't merged yet. But so what vision do you have for UX design in the VR and AR scene?
Well, I think one of the reasons why UX and VR haven't blended together in a big fashion yet is because the audience for VR AR there is not enough demand yet for VR and AR. I'm finding it myself with what we're doing. So the effort that has taken me for the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years, to promote these new disciplines have been way bigger than for the other line of businesses that I have. So we need to educate the customers. That takes time. And I'm talking about the corporate accounts that usually have some money, but they are used to do things in the old way. So imagine that these people are thinking, why should I invest in this new technology? Why is it much different? And what benefit will be for me doing something new that is risky versus continuing doing things in the way that I've done, right? So you have a resistance, you have an education process for the customer, then you have an internal resistance to adopt a new technology. And then you have technology that requires hardware, like you need a headset, you need the HoloLens, you need the capabilities to build these products, which are not necessarily that cheap, right? You have to hire a 3D designer, you have to hire. I'd say the return on investment right now in AR VR being so early is not as big as if you invest in traditional technologies. But knowing that, you want to start early to be on the forefront of this. Otherwise, somebody else will do it for you, and who started early, right? So it's a race. I feel that every day is a race to show that you learn something new, and the race is not just in developing something cool; it's also in placing and being able to sell this.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can definitely see how that's they have to think about risk adversity in those cases when that they don't know what the payoff is. So Paolo, thank you so much for sharing. I think we're almost running out of time, but I would definitely want to get to this last question. So you mentioned that you big software that you've been using is Matterport. But I also see that you've won 2 consecutive years. You've won the Matty Awards. So I think that's really acknowledgeable. And I wanted to get to maybe not. I wanted to ask, what were your favorite projects? They don't have to be the Matty Award projects. But what were your favorite projects, and what were obstacles in getting that project done?
So the Matterport is actually an ecosystem, so it's hardware and software together. The reason why I got those awards is because 2 reasons. One, I was able to 3D scan cool locations and then interesting spaces. Plus, I was able also to mash up the outcome of the spaces as 3D models with the new and original ways that even Matterport didn't think about, like in importing in AR, importing HoloLens, and so. So the combination of things made me a good candidate to win those awards from Matterport. My favorite projects are usually those that take me someplace where I haven't been before. So I combine the experience of, for example, 3D scanning a location that I could have not been there unless there was a project, unless there was this excuse to be there because I had to scan it. So to me, those are the most gratifying projects where, for example, one that comes to mind is I was in France 2 years ago, and I visited this medieval village on the top of a rock, and I said, how cool would it be to 3D scan this village? And then I remember that from the moment I thought about this opportunity, I said, okay, I'm going to come back at 2 a.m. tonight when nobody's going to be around this village. And I'm going to bring my scanner and just I will do it. And then I drove half an hour at night in this, in the mountains. I went there and I scanned it. And I remember clearly being alone in this place with all this atmosphere. And then the 3D model that came out of it was beautiful. And I sent it to Matterport. Matterport said, my gosh, this is beautiful. So they circulated around internally in the company. So this kind of, by the way, this wasn't a real project. It was just a passion, labor of love, just because I wanted it to scan that space. There was no money involved. And it was more like, let's do something for the sake of doing something that we love. So it was like a piece of a new life experience that enabled me to to enjoy that moment. So I always try to attach technology with experiences together, so I can progress and further as an individual as well as a business.
Wow, thank you, Paolo. That was very inspiring. I love travel myself, and I could just imagine how great it would be to be able to exercise your creativity in that matter. So thank you very much for answering all my questions. At this point, I'd like to open it up for questions from Booty or Diana.
Well, I think it's a lot of explanation that you gave us inspire us, and we have Karina also. I don't know if you see it. She's actually exploring her options too. I think it's like in this part, I think the journey that you're having right now, I'm just wondering, what would you give advice to the fellows who's still starting out with the journey? You know, like Eduardo and other fellows too.
Well, if I roll back the clock now on time, and let's say I'm 20 years younger, 30 years younger, and I'm coming out from school, I definitely look for opportunity to do experience more than just looking right away to make the big money. It's true that it's very tempting to be locked into a corporation and then just get the comfortable life. And so it's very, I say, money is very important. However, given the opportunity to learn something cool and experience things in your 20s, I think it's very rewarding. I tell you that once you enter into a corporation, if you are lucky to get the right position, that's great. But if you are not lucky enough and then you end up in a job that you don't like, you feel stuck. And those handcuffs are golden handcuffs, because it says, oh, I'm going to give up to so much money and benefits and so on. And then you will probably feel, you will not feel as good as somebody who took the other way, the other route of trying to realize their potential, their interest, their experiences, and then at one point, once they figure out the direction, to go and experience, and then and try, make a lot of mistakes and errors, and travel and find out if those opportunities can take you somewhere super cool, because now you have the time to learn and to invest. Later, that time will not come back, and you will be told what to do, which is a very different feeling.
Thank you. And also, like, last question, if how do people find your work or contact you?
Yes, so to find us, we have so for sure is our website, tosolini.com, tosolini.com. But we post a lot of videos of our work, of our prototypes on YouTube. So a lot of so if you go on our YouTube channel, you just type YouTube and Tosolini, we show up first, and you will probably see a lot of the explorations that we are doing in every sort of field. And in some of these fields are just intuitions that I have, and I would like somebody to execute, either in my team or we hire the right talent. And some of them led to real projects. Some others were just that, explorations for the sake of advancing our knowledge in a particular field. And then I never regret investing money in doing things that, even if they didn't yield any return, I learned something out of it. I put this on the web. Somebody else might have benefited. It's this universe of knowledge is much bigger than just us here being jealous about our work. That's why we share what we know and then and our prototypes with on the internet, and we hope to inspire as well as and for sure, we are also inspired by the work of the entire community.
Thank you, Paolo. This is Diana. I just want to thank you. It's a very inspiring story. Wonderful advice. But I'm also curious, do you have a link for us to see this? I'm curious, what city was it? Was it Carcassonne?
Oh, so it was Gourdon in the southern France. And you can probably, yes, I can send you a link.
I would love to see that. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much, Paolo, again. And that concludes our interview. So thank you so much. And we hope you have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you and good luck. And I think you start on the right path. You have all sorts of possibilities that I didn't have 20 plus years ago when I came to the US. So you have an advantage. You also have a challenge because all these resources are available to more people around the world. So I always suggest to feel this sense of competition, healthy competition, because it will drive you to always do better and faster.
Thank you for those words.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe and give us a rating or comment if you enjoyed this content. This episode was brought to you by the City of Seattle's Office of Economic Development and SIXR. Mixed and mastered by Joshua Duchesne. Please check the show notes for more information. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, we hope we've inspired you to keep exploring your own journey.